Episode 3 of Frozen Planet 2 is called Frozen Peaks, and it's all about life in the mountains. So the mountains are obviously a habitat that wasn't explored in Frozen Planet, so there was a lot more room to play with here. We weren't going to see the same stuff we saw in Frozen Planet, so that was a bit interesting. And right enough, we open up in the African savannah, we talk about how it's the equator, it was really hot, but in the mountains it's still cold. Here we see high-caste chameleons. It's a species of chameleon that lives in the mountains, and they've got a lot of adaptations, like they give birth to live young instead of eggs, because eggs won't be able to incubate up there, and they basically freeze during the night. It's quite cool watching the young chameleons trying to escape the cold. It was overall, it was a good way opening the episode because it's very different. A chameleon's pretty much the furthest thing you're going to find from anything in Frozen Planet. Then we move to the Alps, where it's a bit colder, obviously. Here we spend quite a bit of time with a golden eagle pair. So golden eagles just look cool. I've seen golden eagles a couple times in the wild, and it's just a really cool thing to see. So I was glad we spent quite a bit of time with golden eagles here. And here we see a pair of golden eagles. They're looking after their chicks, they're trying to feed them, and they've got to get these mountain goats. So they wouldn't really be able to take an adult, but they're able to take the kids. So they manage to grab the kids and struggle with them, pick them up and carry them all over the gorge and drop them. Really cool stuff, really fascinating behaviour. I love the wide shots. There's no real close-ups in this sequence, but it does a really good job of showing you how vast the landscape is. And again, it's pretty horrific actually, watching them catch them and drop the goats. I didn't know they did that, so while it was really cool to see, I didn't really feel like I'd learned anything new there. However, when winter sets in and their chicks leave, they've still got to fan up for the next brood, so they have to go out and take the same goats. However, at this point, they've grown a lot older, they're not young anymore, they're not even bothered by the eagles, so they've got to change their tactics. So here they grab the juvenile goats and force them down the hill, which is pretty dangerous, and it looks like a struggle. I mean, the eagles are big, obviously, but so are the goats, so it was really cool. You do feel like it was a proper battle, and they managed to basically drive them off the cliff, and they're still able to carry them, even though they're so heavy. Like, you could see the eagles struggling, and the other one's kind of looming in the background, almost like in case it needs support, and they drop them in the same way. And again, it's horrific, but it's so cool. And again, while I didn't feel like I'd learned anything new from the first part of the sequence, this completely changed the game. I had no clue they did this. It was really cool. I remember seeing this for the first time back in 2022 and being absolutely amazed by it. It's a really good sequence. Again, golden eagles are great, and I was really glad to see them do something different. So yeah, really good stuff. And then we move on to Japanese macaques. We start off seeing them bathing in the springs. We've seen that before. I was kind of like, okay, we've seen this already. But it's interesting watching the monkeys that can't actually get in, the ones that are excluded, because obviously there is a hierarchy there, so only certain individuals will get access to the springs. And it was interesting watching them huddle together to, support each other. It was quite good. And then we talk about avalanches. The footage of the avalanches are great. We've seen that already in other series, but again, it's no less great here. It looks really cool, and you do get a good sense of how destructive they are. Then we focus on keas. So keas are really interesting because you don't see them very often. They're a pretty opportunistic parrot from New Zealand, and they do eat meat, and we explore that here. But it's interesting just watching them playing around in the snow. The only time I'd seen keas before in a series, I think, was Life of Birds. And again, it was a really good sequence. Again, it looked really good. You don't see keas very often, so it was cool to see them here. I enjoyed that sequence. Then we focus on pumas. So the puma sequence is filmed in infrared, which is cool, a little bit different. But by this point, I was a little bit fed up of watching pumas hunting guanaco. And again, I kind of got the same sense here. However, what was cool was watching the puma approach another, which had already made a kill, and then submit to it to try and get access to its kill. And it's a very tense standoff. You do feel like, okay, this isn't going to be great, because pumas are pretty solitary, most cats are, they don't really tolerate each other. However, in this instance, they did. I'd never seen that before, I didn't really know about it, so that was really cool. It did put a new spin on footage, which was already starting to get a little bit done to death by 2022. So again, pretty good stuff again. I like that. We have seen that since. Then we look at flamingos. Again, flamingos in the high Andes. This started off looking like it was going to be the same thing we'd seen before. The flamingos all hanging around, dancing. They've got their chicks. And then the adults leave when it gets colder. Hence why it's relevant to Frozen Planet. And here we see the chicks struggling. Some of them die when the ice comes in. The salt crystallizes on them. And they really got to struggle to get away. It looks like most of them probably wouldn't make it, but thankfully when some wind comes, they're able to use that to their advantage and able to fly away. Even the ones that have got a lot of salt crystallized on their feathers are still able to make it away. That's really good, and it's kind of hopeful. Again, it was a nice sequence. Again, I kind of felt like, okay, this is going to be the same thing we've seen before, but it really wasn't, so I liked that as well. We then start talking about climate change. Of course we are. We talk about the glaciers retreating. It was quite interesting looking at just how much they've retreated in a very short space of time, even since they started filming the series, and they were filming it for like 3 years, and it reduced by quite a bit. One of the glaciers is pretty much already gone, quite sobering stuff. And then we kind of end with giant pandas. We see giant pandas in China, obviously they're eating bamboo, but they've got to get to higher ground where it's a bit colder, where the bamboo they like is. And they talk about when things heat up, this bamboo might not be able to flourish here anymore, which in turn impacts the pandas. The footage of the pandas was great, so I really liked that. And yeah, it was still a good enough way of ending the episode. And then we got the diaries. It's all about the people filming the pumas. Again, it was alright. It was them trying to film them at night hunting, which was okay, but we obviously know that didn't work out. What I did find interesting was the fact that they just stumbled upon the puma submitting to the other puma to get access to its kill. And considering that was the most interesting part of that sequence, and they just kind of accidentally stumbled upon it, was quite cool, so I like that as well. So yeah, this episode is pretty good. It's probably the weakest of the first 3 episodes, but it's still really good. It's still a really good episode. Highlights for me are easily the golden eagles. That's really going to be tough to top. I also really liked pretty much most things here, to be honest. The Kias were good. I actually liked the Pumas as much as I did moan about them. Yeah, everything here was pretty good again, as usual. But yeah, the Golden Eagles, that's the one at the top. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode. What were your highlights? Let me know in the comments below. And as ever, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, or don't if you don't want to. It's perfectly fine. Next week, I'll be doing the next one, which is about Antarctica, so look forward to that. And yeah, I'll see you next week, and goodbye.